I didn't think this discussion was going to necessarily blow up the way I thought it would. A little while back, I think a few days ago, I decided to post a tweet talking about if Capcom would make an open world Resident Evil game. I put it out as a basic tweet that I thought it was going to get little attention, but it blew up so much that it got so many people commenting. I didn't expect it, and that's a complete shock because it motivated me to make this video. So to the hundreds of people that commented on that tweet, I hope you're watching this video because you're probably going to be featured in here. So before we get into it, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. So going through the comments of the tweet, there was complete division. You had a side saying they would pretty much despise the entire thought of an open world Resident Evil game, and then you had a lot of people saying that they would love to see it happen. But another question could be, what kind of RE game would it be? Would it be a spin-off or an actual mainline game? I have a couple theories about this, but a lot of people were also saying that's what Resident Evil 3 Remake should have been, and I could get on board with that. Just imagine you are Jill Valentine having the opportunity to fully explore Raccoon City before being sterilized, while having certain moments of Nemesis trying to track you down. You're not on a timer or anything, and you had the freedom to experience an insane environment like Raccoon City. That would have been a massive Resident Evil 3 upgrade compared to the one we got in the first place, and a huge reason as to why I say that is because this specific person commented on that tweet. I don't know if you will be watching this video since my channel is very small, but thank you Sphere Hunter for that comment and to help me motivate me make this video, and to everyone else for the comments as well. I want to talk about how this can be a bad and good thing, so let's get into the bad first. I 100% understand where you guys are coming from. An open world Resident Evil game is the complete definition of high risk, high reward potentially. Straying away from what made Resident Evil by taking away the linear experience and atmosphere into an open world idea like something of Halo Infinite or Tom Clancy's Division type of thing. It goes away from that formula, and it could lead to possible failure due to trying to replicate what other games did, but within the Resident Evil franchise. There always is a recipe for disaster, which is what makes the high risk factor have its point proven. I don't know why I made it sound like a person, but you know what I meant. Some people ended up mentioning Evil Within 2 to be an open world in a way where someone said it worked well, but it wasn't scary. I can't voice my opinion on Evil Within 2 and that kind of experience because, as shocking as this sounds, I haven't played it yet. I'm not necessarily saying we're exploring a country within Resident Evil, but let's just say a small town with big areas like a scary type of apartment or house or something like that gives you the freedom to explore when you would like to. Now, let's get into the good of things. It would bring something new to the series. It doesn't necessarily mean that it would completely go away from the original linear design, just more of let's see what we can do and see how the audience feels about this new type of experience. Then if they don't like it, let's go back to the linear designs. Capcom has taken risks before, especially with Resident Evil 6, and they said screw it, let's tone it down and make something that really feels like Resident Evil, which is what made RE7 become RE7. Taking a risk that has the potential to be low or high reward is something that I respect because I like taking risks, not in a weird way, but I respect gaming companies that like to go down a different route and test the waters to see if it can succeed or fail. I feel like the closest thing we got to an open world Resident Evil game was the most recent installment, Resident Evil Village, and in my opinion, I thought it has become a very underrated Resident Evil game. You go to certain areas, get a piece of Rose, and do that until you beat every Lord and get to the linear experience at the end of the story. I think they did a really good job of it, and I think that could be a small taste of what I have planned for this video. So, let's get into the theories. One of the most important things for a Resident Evil game is the atmosphere and environment. So, how are we going to make a semi-open world or just complete open world Resident Evil game? Well, start off with somewhat of a small town with tons of variety. So, what kind of setting are we talking about here? Let's say a newer version of Raccoon City, being created for BOWs as we infiltrate it to take it down, kind of like it started here and now it's going to finish here type of thing. With a format like Resident Evil 3 Remake, getting the freedom to roam around the limited areas of Raccoon City or this new Raccoon City, I would love for the city itself to be somewhat expanded, not by making it bigger, but giving us access to pretty much everything that we see. Maybe we could find some interesting files for lore, cool weapons we haven't seen yet, survivors, Easter eggs that gives us those nostalgic vibes to the original Raccoon City. In files, weird writings on the wall, or puzzles for maybe upgraded weapon parts or treasures to sell to some weird merchant in Raccoon City voiced by Paul Mercier. Maybe that's just a little bit of a wish list for me. Now, of course, there are main objective places where you would have to go, and I think that's where we can capitalize on the linear horror-like feeling. While the outside world gives you an opportunity to explore whatever you want, and you unlock more places the more you progress through the story. Some zombies or whatever monsters could be protecting puzzle pieces, or whatever you need to progress, and the atmospheres or buildings you go into have those horror feelings like the Baker House, the Spencer Mansion, and House Beneviento. Places like that can help this experience have that horror feeling and the semi-open world freedom as well. Which is essentially a formula that RE Village did, but it only became open world when you beat Moreau, because once you go and get the final flask, you are on a linear mission to hunt down Heisenberg once you enter his factory. I would love if you beat everything but the final boss, and that's all you need to do. Let's say it's the hierarchy of Blue Umbrella, and the game gives you the freedom to explore everything, and you can see if you miss some key things that could help you for that fight. Again, Village was really close to that, but it got linear once we got to the final flasks. It gives you a nostalgic feeling while keeping horror elements in the main areas. Here you need to progress in enemies like hunters, lickers, and even a possible tyrant as like a mini boss to get to the final boss. Of course, it could really work out well, and it can be a game that has depth and variety to make the open world experience not feel boring and be a drag. Now the question is, how would the gameplay feel like? It really depends on who you are. Let's say you're a 40 to 50 year old Jill Valentine. Then yes, you are going to have great combat skills now. Let's say you're a resident of this new Raccoon City, then your combat would be very limited since we don't know if the character has experience in terms of combat or what their background is. Now let's get into the second theory I have here, and instead of fighting through Raccoon City to burn it down once again, you're escaping it. Not necessarily the new Raccoon City, but the old one, as some sort of spin-off game, or let's say a remake of Resident Evil Outbreak or File Number 3. This could work well for File Number 3 in this scenario that I have here, so let me just cook up some interesting things that you can do. You have your cast of playable characters. Once you get into the game, you can start off alone and fight through a few small waves of zombies and encounter other survivors as you progress to help you escape Raccoon City, or potentially a completely new city to begin with. You could even be an average Joe and just learn how to shoot weapons the more you play the game. The survivors you meet can help and give you meds and everything if you are in danger of death, while you do the same for them, as keeping them alive is a key factor, and with that you can explore the city with them, and it can unlock new dialogue as well, Easter eggs, and a progression system. It could be very similar to the formula I just used for the new Raccoon City open world game that I just came up with. Exploring streets and buildings while having the tense horror feeling due to your character being limited in combat can work extremely well, and Resident Evil Outbreak Remake can potentially be something like that. Once you enter the streets of Raccoon City, you can explore to find resources to help you and the other survivors escape before the place gets sterilized. And as for the other scenarios where you're in Umbrella's lab, and I believe the college university, you have the freedom to explore, but it honestly doesn't make sense because it's not open world. Well, yeah, let's just stick with the Raccoon City part. You're not on a time limit, and the infection rate you usually see on the bottom right or left corner, the percentage will still increase, but you just better hope you have whatever you need to stop it from going up for a short period of time. And yes, for both games, you can lose the survivors, and your grade after the end of each scenario or story is going to be docked down because of that. It keeps the open world experience tense due to not just yourself and not getting infected, but the others as well. Of course, they're not like Ashley Graham from RE4, but they can at least defend themselves, so that's a little bit of a bonus. So in case anybody has now become aware, or if anyone hasn't, this all came up from my mind, and I tried to brainstorm as many ideas and gameplay features and a mini story with environments and whatnot. It took a little while to figure out some stuff, but there might be some inconsistent things I mentioned that don't make sense at all, or maybe I just repeated myself. But I do have a lot on my mind right now, and it would be hard for me to expand on more ideas since, I'm just one guy and I don't have a team to work with me. I mean, I tried to give my best ideas to figure out if this could work, but then again, at the same time, it can't maybe possibly not work. I mean, who knows? We'll see if there is ever going to be a game like this. Let me backtrack a little bit here. Maybe this could finally be a new game where we could see zombies return in a completely enhanced form, something like Resident Evil Vendetta, but without the stupid cure we ended up witnessing at the end of the movie, which don't get me started on that entire thing. I'll have another video talking about zombies potentially returning in a new game that's not a remake soon, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to try my best to deliver a banger video on that topic. So, thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate you sticking to the end of this video and hear most of my rambling. If you did end up enjoying, a like would be very appreciated to help this video reach the algorithm. But more importantly, hit that subscribe button as well, as I'm trying to hit 5,000 subs by the end of the year, or before the release of RE4 Remake, especially if you want to see more Resident Evil content coming up very soon. I hope everyone has themselves a good day, a good night, and a good sleep. Take care, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.